right, Pickle. Let's get right into it. Like I said, we are joined in Louisville in the DCTF studios with Dr. Erin Reynolds. Doctor, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here in Louisville.
Absolutely. And we've already done an interview with you before. Actually, you and Pickle did an interview during COVID. So, but that was over Zoom. So this is the first time you've been in the studio at all, right?
This might be the first time I've been to Louisville.
That's so crazy. Oh my gosh. I love that. Well, welcome. We're super glad you're here and you can make it here in person. But before we get to the good stuff, kind of give us a little bit of an elevator pitch as to who you are and what you do and just your journey throughout your profession so far.
Sure. So I'm a clinical sports neuropsychologist, which most people have never heard of.
That sounds very smart.
It does. It sounds very smart.
So I am not a medical doctor. I'm a psychologist, and I specialized in a field called neuropsychology, which is usually like giving people paper and pencil-based tests. Mm-hmm. And so I was just outside of Boston. This was like 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago now. And I was really wanting to break into sports. As you guys know, it's not always the easiest, right? Mm-hmm. You need to find the right path. I wanted to work with athletes. And my husband, who works from home, called me one day and he said he had just watched this news spot and one of the Boston Bruins was going to Pittsburgh to see this expert, right, on concussion. So I looked up the expert. Biggest concussion program in the world is in Pittsburgh. Wow. This guy, Dr. Mickey Collins is his name, literally grew up down the street from my husband in this tiny town in the middle of Maine. Like,
holy cow.
Literally one stoplight town. Like, they didn't have anything. So they didn't know each other because they were like 4 years apart. But my husband said, you got to email
There's
him.
a connection. Yeah.
Yeah. How cool.
So I sent this random email to this guy and I was like, listen, you know, I'm really inspired by your work. I'd love to learn what you do. And he was just wonderful. And he invited me out, spent some time with him, like 3 days. And they wound up creating this position for me to come train there, which was I know it really is like you got to get your foot in the door sometimes,
right?
Yeah.
And so that was 2012. I started working with athletes, started focusing just on concussion. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like 2014 maybe, Charlotte Jones actually came to visit us in Pittsburgh.
Wow. Just
to see the program and understand what we were doing. And we had dinner with her that night and she was talking about this facility that they were breaking ground on in Frisco and how they were moving, you know, from where they were up there, and they were partnering with this healthcare system called Baylor, Scott and White, and that kind of like got my wheels turning.
Right. Right. Hey, hi, I'm here.
Exactly.
How can we get me down there?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, as you know, this is a Texas high school football show, and coaches are actually required to take a concussion protocol course every couple of years or so. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you guys offer that program to them for free if they're coaches. So talk to us a little bit about that program and how these coaches, if they're watching, can get involved.
Yeah. So, you know, the laws in Texas are pretty clear, and coaches need to have 2 hours every other year, I believe, of education. And so last year, maybe 2 years ago, someone approached me to do a course for Baylor, Scott and White. We had never offered anything like that before. And a lot of the courses that were out there that I could see were either just watching videos, you know, for 2 hours, like watching someone lecture, or reading a lot. And you guys know how it is when you have to do like mandatory training.
That's easy to tune out.
Right. Yes.
You're playing on your phone, you're watching another program. Like, it's easy to tune out for sure.
Yeah. And for me, like, I was actually really surprised when I got to Texas at how educated a lot of people are about concussion, because, you know, I mean, let's be honest, you think of Texas as like being very old school in terms of football.
Oh yeah.
And
run the damn ball energy, you know?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And I really wanted the coaches to have really the most up-to-date information so they could use it. And so we created this course. It's interactive. You can't just, you know, put it on mute and let it play. And like you said, it's for free. So I can give you guys the link.
Yeah,
please. Absolutely. Yeah.
When the coaches go to the website, I just want to say it looks like it costs $30, but if coaches and athletic trainers can get it for free. So they just have to fill out the form and then it'll say 0 at the end.
Very cool. Right. So actually, with that being said, if you were a parent that just wanted to know or anything, you can pay to take that course as well?
You can, yes. You could.
That's very
I believe
interesting.
you can. Yeah, it would be through Baylor, Scott and White continuing medical education, but a parent could.
Huh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
That is very interesting.
We also do a lot of community outreach and talks. So, you know, I'm working right now with a group in Plano, and we're going to do like an evening during the week. They're going to have all their parents, all their coaches, and we do like a 30 to 45-minute education piece with them. So there's other ways they can get it too.
Right, absolutely. Now, you said you guys are based out of the Star in Frisco.
Yes.
And we've actually walked through that facility quite a few times, I mean, for different reasons, but actually the Baylor Scott and White portion of it just a couple of months ago. So how has that new state-of-the-art facility really enhanced you guys' practices and just getting the word out there?
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, as you saw, it's beautiful, right?
So like gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
like
aesthetically
an architect,
pleasing.
I was going to say from an architecture, it's like actually physically beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's very appealing.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, like that's part of it. Like parents drive by and they see like the turf and all, you know, and it's very exciting. The stars are all over the place. And so, yes, that facility is great because when I came here in 2017, it was just myself in a little office, and it has allowed us to expand the program. Now we have a full-time sports medicine physician. We have physical therapists. We have 2 athletic trainers.
Wow.
We have an entire research team. So we're not just treating the athletes in the area, but we're also collecting data, writing papers, contributing in that way. And it's also allowed us through COVID especially to expand our telehealth services. Right. So even though we're in Frisco, we're not limited as to who we can treat. We can treat kids basically across the state.
Right, absolutely. Now, and you also take care of athletes all the way from youth ages to, like you said, the Dallas Cowboys, or now, in case, the XFL. Yeah. So how have you seen, like, what are the changes that you've kind of experienced in terms of concussion awareness just all throughout these different ages?
It's actually really interesting to watch how it happens. I would say the pros now, they're just given so much education and so many resources,
right,
that they're actually really good about it.
Yes. That's good. It means it's working.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I mean, it's very rare that we have issues with them. The high school kids, I would say, we're also educating them really well, but they really want to play. You know, it's the younger kids. The kids, I would say, I have this terrible habit of making like kids between the ages of 8 and 12 cry in the office because they don't really
understand.
get it.
They don't understand.
They just want to play.
Right.
So I think that's...
you only have so many games, Dr. Reynolds.
I know.
Seriously.
It's terrible.
Well, kind of going off of that point a little bit, I mean, I feel like a lot of the times that when athletes do get these types of injuries, they might pass it off as, oh, it's just a headache. And honestly, I'm kind of guilty of that. I've done that before. I'm like, oh, my head just hurts. It's probably just a headache. What are some of the primary core examples that you see in pretty much every single concussion? And what can these athletes and these parents that are watching look out for when it comes to serious concussions?
Well, so that's a hard question because everyone is really different.
Fair, right.
So headache, I think the research says like 85% of people are going to have a headache, but then 15% are not, right? And so like dizziness, nausea, things like that. For kids, I rely a lot on parents. Like, is there any change in their mood or their sleep patterns, or is their teacher saying anything? But the other piece is you don't always have symptoms right away.
Right.
So when we educate parents and coaches, we really try to emphasize, like, if there is a clear hit to the head and there is any indication, like they stumbled a little bit, for that game at least, I prefer to just pull them out and just give them 24 hours. You know, if nothing happens, then they're probably fine.
Right. It kind of varies for sure. And I'm sure between age groups and too, like it's difficult to look for. I saw the movie Concussion. It scared me. So I definitely am very aware of it. Switching gears a little bit here. Now, you talked about it a little bit in your intro, but being a woman working in sports medicine, I'm sure it's been different, I'm sure. So what is some advice that you can give to other women that are looking to make it or just, carve a path into that field?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a bit over the years. Do you see more women now, which is great. Sports medicine is usually connected to orthopedic surgery, and it's just still very male dominated.
Right.
So I would say, having confidence is important. Women tend to fall into this category of like, if they're too confident, people don't like them as much sometimes, or right. There's like this, but from my experience, doing a really good job at what you do is really, it speaks for itself. Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll earn the respect.
Definitely.
You deal with a lot of egos sometimes, and you just kind of have to find your place. It can be hard to figure out, should I be acting harder or how should I be presenting myself?
Right.
Well, and I'm sure that you go through the same thing that we did of like obviously you had to go through like legitimate school studying, but also staying up to date on this stuff and making sure that you have the most recent knowledge that to where people can't overlook you because they understand that you know what you're talking about, and staying up to date has to be a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Being very current with things. But I mean, as you two both know, right?
Like, I was going to say the same thing in our profession too as well. So we can kind of relate definitely on that note. We did a little bit of research before this, and we discovered that football is actually not the leading cause of concussions. It's actually cheerleading. And I was a cheerleader in high school, which is kind of crazy. So how important is it to you and your team over there to spread awareness that this can happen across any sport with any athlete?
Yeah. So like I said, when I moved to Texas, I was a little bit unsure of what I was going to be met with, right? In terms of just coaches being open to talking about concussion. And I was pleasantly surprised. We see concussions in every sport. There's no question. I will tell you though, cheerleading is a problem.
That's so crazy.
It's like the culture is really interesting, and I can't really make sense of it because it seems to be across like competitive cheer and even high school cheer. However, most high schools don't even treat the cheerleaders like they're actual athletes.
Yeah, I guess, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that. I mean, I was a cheerleader in high school too. I did competitive cheer as well as high school cheer. And I can definitely say that there were quite a few people at my high school that looked at us as non-athletes. Yeah. So how do you treat something like that? Like how do you look out for concussions and stuff like that when you're not really even considered a sport?
Well, I think part of it is the education piece, right? Like if we're educating football players and wrestlers to what to look out for and never educating the cheerleaders, I find the cheerleaders I treat are the ones who consistently get injured and just keep going.
Right.
So we really try to get kids to stop playing. If you think anything's wrong, just come out and get checked out. And the cheerleaders seem to time and time again, and they don't just keep practicing, they keep doing like tumbling runs or like stunting
Which is
for an
extra
hour.
bad.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, where can people find more information on your website about how to get involved with this program, or how can coaches, really dive into this type of training course?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys the link.
Okay.
It's not an easy link, so I'm not going to just say it.
Okay.
I'll send it
Probably
to
very
you
difficult. Yeah, we can put it in the comments or something on our video and stuff. So
we always cut the interviews and post them on our website, so we'll make sure to include the link on there if that works out for you.
Perfect. Yeah. And then I can give you the link too for our program at the Star.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds great. Well, if you don't have anything else for her,
we're just so excited.
We're so excited that you got to
came in the
come
office.
in.
I
Yeah, I know. It's
Thank
such
you for.
We were talking about this before the show. I mean, it's such a nice change from COVID. We can actually sit across from each other and not wear masks. So we really appreciate you taking the time to come to Louisville and chat with us for a little bit.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.